Hi guys, in this video I'm going to do a short recap of all the programming uh, in Java that we've done this year and that you need to know for your test tomorrow. And I'll start from the very beginning, making a project in NetBeans, and, downloading the it.jar file, getting that working. Then I'll go through chapter 1 on Gogga, the chapter 2 and 3 stuff on variables, getting input from the user, typecasting, things like that. And then finally, I'll finish up with the math class and some things that you might need to do there. Some string handling as well. Okay, so the very first thing that you will need to do before you start writing any code in NetBeans is to obviously make a new main class. All right. To make a new main class, you have to first have a project open. Okay, so I've got two projects here that I could open. You can see that it's a project because the icon that it has is a little coffee cup. So if you want to make a new project, you click on this little orange box here and it says new project. You want to select Java and then Java application. If you're on Mac and you're using Apache or you're on any of the school computers, this page might look slightly different. Under the categories, there'll be different folders. What you want to choose is the one that says Java with Ant. Okay, so you'd click Java with Ant, then Java application, and then next. Right, you can name your project whatever you want. I'm just going to name mine demo. And then you want to untick this box here that says create main class. Okay. The only reason I say that is because I'd rather do it later on explicitly myself, because in the test or exam they'll ask you to name the class a specific thing, so you don't want to create an automatic main class here. Okay, so you want to untick that and then click finish. All right, so here's our new project called demo. Now the hierarchical structure that Java works with is a project is the overall container. Within that, you have to make a package. So to make a package, you can expand this source packages folder and right-click on default package, hover over new, and make a new Java package. If Java package doesn't come up in this shortcut menu, if you click on other, it should come up in here. So if you click on Java on the left and you look for file types all the way on the bottom on the right, you'll find Java package there. Okay, cool. And then you can say next, and again you can name this whatever you like really. I'm going to name it demo package and click on finish. Right, so now we've got a package, and within a package is where you need to put your main classes. Okay, so I'm then going to right click on the package, again hover over new and click on Java main class. Again, if Java main class does not come up here, click on other, Java, and it will be here. Okay, Java main class. Now this name is important. In the test they will tell you what you need to name your main class. Okay, so this is where you type in the name. So if they tell you to name it I don't know, rockets, then this is where you would type it. Okay, so this class can be called rockets. Cool, and then you click on finish. Right, once that's done, it will automatically open up the main class for you. Yours will probably look a little bit different to mine. It'll have some gray comments in all over the place. The reason mine looks different is because I went and changed my template so that it didn't include any of those comments. But any of that gray stuff you can remove without having to worry about anything. Those are all just comments that are put in by default, but you can You feel free to remove them or leave them in. It doesn't make a difference. Okay, what does make a difference are all of these blue words here. Okay, so the important thing to remember is that the computer will read code line by line from top to bottom. Okay, so the first thing that you need to tell the computer in the main class, well, actually, first off, remember that the main class is a file that contains code in it. Okay, that whole class is then contained within a package, and the package is contained within a project. So remember that structure, and then this will all make a bit more sense. So the first thing that we need to do in our code inside our class is we need to tell the computer which package we're working in currently. Okay, so I've called mine demo package, and if you right click on it and you make a new Java main class, it should automatically fill in this line here for you. But if you get any errors saying something about it doesn't know what package you're in or package doesn't exist, then make sure that you have this line. Okay. Underneath package is where you need to put your import statements. Okay. All the things that you might need to know how to import is firstly the it.jar file, the JOption pane class, and possibly the color class, so java.awd.color for to change the Gogga colors. Okay. So first off, let's get started with adding the it.jar file. So that's the file that contains all the code for Gogga and allows you to make a Gogga and use it on this in your code. Okay. So this part I would highly recommend doing today before the test, because you're allowed to use your own devices tomorrow. But in future, you'll have to write on the school computers. And if you ever have to add Gogga again, this is how you do it. Okay, so you'll want to go into Classroom. And if you go to our Classroom, go to Classwork, and scroll down to the admin section. This is loading. Okay, under the admin section, there's a material post called it.jar file. So just open that up and download this it.jar file. Okay, and there it is. It will be automatically placed in your downloads folder. So that's where mine is there. I'm going to move it. I'm going to put it in a more permanent place where there's no chance of it being deleted or moved around or anything, because if it does get deleted or moved, then Java is suddenly not going to be able to find it, and then you won't be able to use Gogga anymore. Okay, so I've put it here in my Google Drive, and that's where it's sitting now. Okay, but now we need to add it to the libraries of our project. So to do that, you right-click on Libraries, Add Jar folder, then go and find wherever you've put it. So mine automatically opened up to where mine is, and click on Open, and it's now added. Okay, if you want to see it, you can expand this, and you should see it in a little jar over there. Okay, now we can use Gogga. So once you've done that, going back to our main class, in the code, we have to tell Java that we want to import, or we want to use the code from that file. So we're going to say import it.star. The .star means we want to import everything that's inside that file. Okay. It's giving me a little bit of a warning, but all it's saying is that we haven't used this import. Okay. Yellow is fine. Yellow is a warning. Yellow does not mean errors. Okay. Only red means errors. Okay, so we've now imported the it.star. Some other imports we might need are the JOption pane class. So for that, you'll have to type import javax.swing.parent J option pane, but as you start typing, it'll pull it up there for you. And the other one is java.awt.color. Okay. Those are the only three imports that you might possibly be asked, or have to be able to know for the test tomorrow. Okay, so we've now told the computer what package you're in. We've told it what other code we want to be able to use. And now we need to tell it where we're starting our code. Okay, and that's what this line is for. So this is saying public class rockets. Okay, so we're making a class. We're calling it called rockets. And everything that's inside these curly brackets here is going to be inside our class. So this is all our code now. It even highlights them in yellow, so you can see everything that's inside our class. Okay. Now, the way that Java works in particular is that to run a class, when you click run, Java will go and look for a main method, and it will run all the code that's inside that main method. Okay. What do I mean by a method? I mean that basically it's just a container for code. So if I type something that's just inside the class here, no matter what it is, even if I'm just making a variable or something like that, different, weird, strange, and wonderful things are going to happen. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to type our code inside the main method so that it runs. Okay. If you've made a Java main class, it will automatically make a main method for you here. So it'll make this container heading and put in the open close curly brackets for you and highlight them. So we want to write all of our code inside here. All right. If for whatever reason you delete this or it gets damaged or you make a class that doesn't have a main method or something, it's very easy to get back. You don't have to remember all the words. If you just type psvm and then tab, NetBeans will automatically put one in for you. Okay, cool. So now we can actually start with some coding. So now that we know where we need to write our code inside these curly brackets here, we can start actually doing some code. Right. So the first thing I said I would go over is the Gogga stuff. So before we can do anything with a Gogga, we need to make a Gogga. And so the way to make any object in Java is by using the following format. Okay, we're going to say Gogga, and we're going to give it a name. So I'm going to call mine bug equals new Gogga. And the second time that you type Gogga, you've got to put an open close brackets and a semicolon. Okay. The reason behind all of this formatting, you'll only be able to understand a little bit later on once we've covered some more concepts. So don't worry about why that's the case. Just know for now, this is how you have to make a new Gogga. Okay. Now that we've made a Gogga object and we've called it bug, we can refer to it just by using its name, which we've called bug. Okay. If I run the code at this point, you'll see that all it does is it makes a Gogga appear on the screen. Okay. It's got some default values. Its default color is red. Its default coordinates are 7 and 5, and its default direction is up. It's facing upwards. Okay. Now, if I type the object's name, bug, and then I push dot, NetBeans will automatically come up with the entire list of all the possible things that I could put after this. So these are all the commands that I could give to my bug. Okay, so you can scroll up and down here and see what they all are. So for example, if we just want to move him forward, we can go and find move there. So you can type out move on your own, or you can just go and find it here and double click, and it will then automatically insert it for you. Okay. Yeah, so that's the most basic command, move. It'll make the Gogga move forward by 1 block, and he'll leave a little red trail behind him. Okay. Some of the other ones that we've done are set color. So to set the color of the Gogga, you can double click on that method. And then inside the brackets, you have to give it a color in this format. Okay. It'll only put this in automatically if you've already got this import here. Okay. If I take out this import, it will complain. It'll say, can't find color, we don't know what you're talking about. Yep. So you have to have that import so that it knows what you're talking about. So this is how you change the color. You type color dot and then whatever you want. Yellow, blue, red, green, whatever type of color you want. Okay, and then it'll change the color of the bug on the screen, and it will also change the color of the trail that he leaves behind. So if I say bug dot color color dot blue, and then I say bug dot move, run this, it'll change his color and it'll also change the trail that he leaves behind, the color of the trail. Yeah. Some other properties are you can change the width of the trail. Say bug dot set trail width. In the brackets, I can give it a certain width. That's another important thing to mention. When you're looking at all of these methods that you can use here, not only does it tell you what the method name is, but if you look at it, it also tells you what information it's expecting you to give it. Okay, so set trail width is expecting you to give it an integer called I. The called I part doesn't matter. The only part that matters is that it wants an integer. Okay. For example, the set label method wants a string, set color wants a color, etc. Right. Okay, so if we want to change the trail width, we can do it here. We can make it a trail width of 10 and see how big that is. So I haven't moved, so that's not going to be very helpful. There we go. So that's quite a thick trail. Okay, if you want to move in other directions, you can turn the bug. You can say dot turn left, turn right, turn the trail on, turn the trail off, anything like that. Okay, so you might have to use the Gogga to draw some sort of picture in your test, just like you had to do for that homework example. Okay, so that's everything on Gogga. Now we can move on to some variables. Okay, the primitive data types that you need to know and be able to use to create variables are string, int, double, boolean, char. I'm trying to think if there are any others. No. Okay. No. Those are all the ones that you need to know. Okay. So to create a variable, we have to do two things. So remember, a variable is just a placeholder that stores a value for us. Okay. So if I want to make a string, well, no, let's start with an integer variable. If I wanted to store the number 7 in a variable somewhere, this is how I would do it. I'd say, okay, I want to make a variable and it's going to have a data type int. And we have to give our variable a name. You can call it whatever you want as long as it starts with a lowercase letter. So I'm going to just call the num, short for number, just to show you. And that's it. I've now declared a variable. If I want to give it a value, use the equal sign. So if I say num equals 7, I've now given it a value of 7. So that means if I print it out, notice here I'm referring to the variable by its name, but when I print it out, it's going to print out the value of that variable, which is 7. Okay. Great. So that's how you can make any of the primitive data type variables. Okay. The next thing that you need to be able to do is some basic maths. So remember, the basic maths operators that we have are plus, minus, times, and divide. Okay, those are the things that we use. So if I print out 3 plus 4, it will then print out 7. Okay, it's actually done the calculation there for us. Okay. The only two things that are new here is, first off, is another operator called the modulo operator. It's just the percent sign, the percent symbol. So if you press Shift 5 on your keyboard, that'll give you the percent symbol. And what this does is, if I say 13 mod 4, it's going to take 13, divide it by 4, and give me back the remainder. So 13 divided by 4 should be 12, remainder 1. So what this should print out is just 1, because that's the remainder from the division. Okay, there we go. We've got 1. Cool. The other thing is you need to be careful of integer division. If you perform division like this over two integers, it will perform integer division. What does that mean? It means that it'll do the division, but if there are any decimal points on the answer, it will just throw them away. It won't round it off. It will just cut them off and discard them. So if I say 13 divided by 4, that should be 3 point something something something. But if I only perform integer division and I run this, it'll only give me 3. Okay. If I wanted to perform real division, so I want the decimals, then you have to make, well, there's a few ways of doing it. The easiest way is just to make one of these a double. So to make it a double, I can just say, okay, 13.0 divided by 4. There we go. Now it's given me the proper answer. Okay. Another way that you could do it is with typecasting. So before you do the division, you tell Java, hey, I want the answer of this to be in a double. Okay, and then it'll do it for you there. Yep, those are the two easiest ways to do it. Okay, next off, getting input from the user using JOption pane. Okay, if I just start typing JOption pane, okay, that is a class somewhere inside Java. It works exactly the same way as Gogga. So if I say JOption pane and I push dot, it will bring up all the methods that I can use from it. Okay. If you go and click on it, it'll tell you all sorts of information about it as well. So if I click on show input dialog, it'll tell me what it does. It shows a question message dialog requesting input from the user. Cool. It tells me that it wants an object. Okay, don't worry about object, pretend it just wants a string. And on the right here, what these data types are telling you is what the method's going to give you back once it's finished doing its job. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense yet, just bear with me. So we're going to say JOption pane.show input dialog, and then we're going to give it a string. What's the string going to be? It's going to be whatever I type in here is what will display on the pane when it pops up. So if I say enter your name, that's what it will display when it pops up. Now you can leave it like this, but it's going to give you a warning because it's saying you need to assign what this thing is returning to you to a variable, because we're doing this command, and show input dialog when it's finished is going to give us back a string, and the value of that string is whatever the user typed into the box. Okay, but we need to store that somewhere to be able to use it in our code. So I'm going to declare a string. I'm going to call it name. Okay. And then I'm going to say, okay, I want to store that value inside my string variable. Okay. So now whatever the user types in, this method is going to return a string, and the value of that string will be stored in name. So if I go and later on, if I just print out name, it's going to print out whatever value it's got. So here we go. So you see the string that I put in here for the input dialog is what question pops up here. If I enter as the user Jason, okay, what will then happen is this input dialog method will return a string. That string will be assigned to the name variable. So then when I print out name later on, it will print out that string, Jason. Okay. Something I'd just like to show you quickly that you can do with strings is it's very easy to add things onto strings. Okay, so if I wanted to print out a message saying hello and then your name, okay, I would do it like this. So I'd say I want to print out in double quotes. So remember, any value you're giving a string has to be in double quotes. Any value that you're giving to a char or character has to be in single quotes. So here I'm going to say hello, and then afterwards, if I say plus and then something else, name, for example, okay, then Java will join these two things into one string and then print it out. So if I enter the name Jason, Java will then print out hello Jason. Okay, and it'll treat that as one string. This thing that you're adding onto the string does not have to be a string itself. It can be any data type. If I put in a number there, plus 5, it's going to just add on 5 as a character onto the string. Jason, hello, 5. So added it onto this string that I'm printing out here. Okay, it didn't print the name that I entered because I didn't tell it to. I didn't put name anywhere inside the system.out.println statement. Okay. Alrighty, so that's how to get some string input from the user. But now let's say we want the user to enter a number. Okay, so let me just, for clarity, I'm going to change my string variable that I've made to number. And let's say that we want our user to enter their age. So let's say, yeah, we want the user to enter their age. Okay, I've made a string variable called number, and here I'm going to ask for your age, and then I'll print it out at the end. Okay, and it can do that. I can enter a number here, 26 or 29 or 34, whatever, and then it'll print it out. Okay, but it has treated it and stored it as a string. So if I try to do something here like, let's say I want to print out number divided by 4, it's going to tell me it's an error. Bad operand types for that operator. first type string, second type int. So it's saying this is a string, this is an int. That operator only works for numbers. It doesn't work for string. So what we need to do is we need to convert our number that we've gotten into a different data type. Okay. So the easiest way to do that is using another variable. So I'm going to make an integer variable called age. I'm going to declare it there. All right. Then we're going to ask the user to enter their age. Once we've got it, I'm going to say, okay, I want to make age equal to number. Then it's going to complain because it's saying, I can't make age equal to number because number is a string and age is an int, so you can't make them equal. Okay, but Java has an inbuilt method that can convert it for you, and that method is in the integer class. So we're going to type integer dot, and the method name is parse int. So actually, let me just show you there. Comes up, you see it's expecting you to give it a string, and it's going to give you back an int. Okay, so let's enter that, and there we go. Okay, so now whatever I type in as the number is going to be stored in this variable, number variable. It will be then sent to this method, and this method will convert it to an int for me, which I can then store in my integer variable. So if I now try to print out age divided by 4, it'll say cool, no problem. It will do integer division though, because these are both ints. So if I wanted to do real division, I'm going to say 4.0. My age, let's say 35, divided by 4, 8.75. Okay, you can do exactly the same thing with doubles. If I want my age to be a double, just declare it as a double, but then I can't use the integer.parseInt function. I need to use the double.parseDouble method. And exactly the same thing otherwise. All right. The only other thing regarding strings that you might need to know is inside a string. If you type \t, that'll put in a tab. If you type \n, that'll go to a new line. If you type \\, and actually print a backslash. If you put backslash and then a quote, then it'll actually print a quote. Yeah, but that's not too important. Alrighty, so that's everything that you need to know about variables for the test tomorrow. So the final thing that you'll need to be able to use is the math class. Okay, so just like the integer class and the double class are fundamental classes of Java, so is the math class. So if you want to do anything more advanced than plus, minus, times, divide, modulo, you'll have to use the math class. Okay, there are 4 functions that you'll need to know. Okay, so let me just set this up, and I will be back with you. Okay, so all I've done here is I've declared a variable called num, and it's a double, and I've given it a value of 5. Okay. Now, let's say I want to raise that 5 to the power of 6. The method that you need to do that is math.how, for me even, okay, and you can see it's expecting 2 doubles as input. And you can go and read here, it says returns the value of the first argument raised to the power of the second argument. So what that means is whatever first number I type in is going to be the base, and whatever second number I type in is going to be the exponent. So if I put in num here as the first number, the base will be 5. And if I type 6 there, the exponent will be 6. Okay, so what this whole thing at the end of the day is going to give you is 5 to the power of 6. So if I print that out, we'll see there it is. Okay, and it even says 0.0 because I've made this a double, so it's just being clear. It's showing me, okay, that's a double. Cool. The next one you need to know is math.abs or abs. Okay. Num. What? Okay, so ABS is short for the absolute value of num. Absolute value is very simple. Basically, it just makes sure whatever number you give it, it will make it positive. So if you give this function a positive number, it will do nothing to it. And if you give it a negative number, it will just take away the minus sign. So it'll multiply by -1 and just make it positive. So if I say double num is 5 and I print out math.abs num, then it'll just print out 5. There we go. But if this were to be -5, then it will change it to a positive and just print out 5 again. Okay, that's all that does. Yeah. The next one that you need to do or be able to use is square root, which is pretty self-explanatory. I say math.sqrt. If a number I put in the brackets, it will give me the square root of that. So in this case, it'll print out the square root of 5, which is 2 point whatever. Okay, cool. The last one that you need to know, and the trickiest one, is the round function. Okay, so math.round. Whatever number I put in here, it will take and it will round it off to the nearest whole number. So 0 decimal places. So if I put in 5.1, this will print out 5. It will just round it to 5. Okay. If this is 5.7, it will round it off and about 6. Okay. I'm going to remove these other print statements for now, just to make this a bit more clear. So there we go. Okay, cool. So you're probably thinking, oh, why is that tricky? Well, there are 2 tricky things here that you need to be aware of. The first thing is that the dot round method, if you go and look, this is the one that we're using here. It takes in a number, but the return type is an int. So if I say math.round num, and then I say divided by 3, or divided, no, let's say divided by 5. No, rather, let me just change this. Okay, so if we've got 24.7, okay, and we divide this by 4, okay, what it's going to do is it'll round off num to the nearest whole number, so it'll round it off to 25, and then it'll divide by 4. Okay, so what is 25 divided by 4? Let's have a look. 6.25. Okay, so that's what we're expecting. Oh dear, it only gave me 6. Why is that? Because this is an integer, and this method returns an integer, so it's performing integer division. So be careful of that. Make sure that you're performing real division here. So even though I made num a double, this is a double, but the result of this whole method is an int. Okay. So if I make 4 a double here, then it will do the proper division. Okay. The second tricky thing, and the last thing I have to show you, is how to round off to a specific amount of decimal places. So let's say I've got the number 24.736591. And I want to round this off to 2 decimal places. So I want to get 24.74 as my answer. Okay. If I just throw it straight into math.round, it'll round it off to the nearest whole number. Okay. And unfortunately, there's no structure like inside the round method to tell it how many decimal places you want. So we have to come up with a way of doing it ourselves. And the way to do it is if you multiply num, so I'm going to make num equal to num times 10. So if I multiply this number by 10, what is that going to do? Well, all it's really going to do is move the decimal point. So this number times 10 is going to be 247.36591, whatever. Okay, so if I round that off, then I'll get 247. Okay, if I multiply it by 100, then it'll move the decimal point by 2 spaces, and I'll get 2474. Okay. So using this trick, we can round off to however many decimal places we want, because if we multiply by 10, and then after it's done the rounding, we go back and we undo that, so we divide by 10. Make sure it's real division. Okay, then we move the decimal place up and we get our desired result. If you wanted to go to 2 decimal places, no problem. You just got to multiply by 100 and then divide by 100 afterwards. There we go. Okay, so that is everything that you should have to know for the test tomorrow. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask or send me an email at any time. I generally stay up quite late, so I will probably respond. And yeah, all the very best of luck for tomorrow.